Hello and welcome back right here with clickmail.co. In this video on evangelism training, we're going to be getting into knowing your audience and the importance of knowing your audience and how to know your audience so that when you give the gospel message, when you actually evangelize, it actually comes across super smooth. And it's like not smooth in like a manipulative way, but smooth in like you're a normal person and the conversation is just progressing naturally. That's what we want. Now, in order to do that, you have to know your audience. Okay. The gospel message, as we learn it in church, is like this weird canned meat. They're just like, hey, here, it's canned. It's exactly like this. Just go out there on the street and just say that to somebody and they'll accept Jesus. And that is unwanted advice. That is criticism. If I've ever heard it and I've done it, I've been a part of it, and people don't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's not supposed to be that way. It is supposed to be an intimate, personal, meaningful conversation where the person is so glad you've talked to them. They thank you. They hug you. After I've shared the gospel with people, they get so excited, or maybe they kind of get back into their faith. They get so, oh my gosh, you've got to add me on social media. You got to add me on Facebook. You got to, and then they get so excited. And this has happened a bunch of times to me. They'll get so excited, they'll just run away. Right. And I'll be like, I told you, I've been at the hot tub a lot. I talked to a young man about his faith who was at least previously a Christian and was getting back into his faith. And he felt very encouraged and he just ran away like he's on a mission. He was so excited. Why? How does that happen? Well, it comes from knowing your audience. Okay. So the wrong thing to do when you're sharing the gospel in most situations, I'm not saying, if someone's asking you, then great, go for it. On the front end is just to come in and say, oh, what's your name? Joe, I'm going to tell you about Jesus. And then you just give them the thing. And it's like, that's clunky. That's awkward. It's not fluid. It's not comfortable to hear. Okay. So we get to know our audience. We do not share the gospel on the front end. Instead, what do? We listen. Okay. And the video that we have on how to start an evangelistic conversation, go check that one out, because this is going to be a little bit of an overview from that, but we're going to move a little past that because we're going to talk more about getting to know the person, not just how to open it. Okay. But to that end, watch that video. So when we're talking to someone after the first meeting, again, check out the other video, but once we're talking to them, just talking to them, get to know them, talk about normal stuff, see where the crack in the facade is. Okay. And everybody's got them. I've got them. You've got them. People who don't know Jesus have them. We wear this mask in public when we talk to people we don't know. We pretend like everything's great and we don't show anybody the real stuff. And that's what you're looking for. You're just talking to them. Oh, your day's going okay. Yeah. How about you? Oh, well, it's a little bit of a tough day. Right. And then they're moving on. That was the crack. Go in, open it up a little bit, see what's there. They talked about it because there's nobody else listening. You're a stranger they just met, presumably, right? Or maybe they do know you, but they're telling you that something's not exactly right in their life because you're the person that they're actually willing to tell it to. If they didn't want to talk to you about it, they wouldn't have shared that there's something not exactly right. Oh, I'm sorry to hear it's a rough day, right? But I don't want to impose, but love to hear what's going on if you want to share. And I don't think I've ever had anybody say they don't want to share. If they said that something's not going okay, they immediately just say, yeah, oh, thank you so much. Well, actually, what's going on is, and then they just share it with you. And you can go and build the trust. This is what we're doing when we know our audience. We're listening to them. We actually care about the stuff happening in their lives, not because we need to share the gospel, right? That's manipulative. Because I actually care and you actually care and we want to listen. And so you can go from, oh, hey, what's your name? How are you? How's the day going? You can go from that to, my mother, I just found out my mother is in the hospital with stage 4 terminal cancer and she probably won't get through the week. And people will tell you that stuff inside of 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And they don't know you from Adam. How do they do that? Why do they do that? Because they don't have anybody else to talk to. Nobody listens. Maybe their family is toxic or unhealthy, or they don't know their family, or they don't talk to their family, or whatever it is. They don't have people. They're not married. And I show up at the hot tub, you show up at the gym or whatever, and you're the only person in their whole week that is going to take 20 minutes to listen. And so when you see the crack in the facade, that is when they're telling you, I'm comfortable sharing more if you ask. And the way we ask is not controlling. We're not saying, oh, tell me more about that. Nope, don't do that. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's sensitive, right? That's an open wound, right? They don't want you touching it and just going, oh, tell me about that. Don't do that, right? Don't, we want to be sensitive. And so we want to say, with your permission, I don't want to impose, right? We want to be sensitive to their feelings, because when we approach that, they can get defensive. And so we want to be sensitive. And we want to say, well, if you're willing to talk more about it, I'd love to hear what's going on. I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, they'll say yes pretty much every time. Okay, so and then what happens? We just continue to ask questions. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Wow, that must be so difficult. What are you thinking you're going to do? What do you think your next steps are? Tell me more about that. And you're just allowing them to share. Okay. And then at some point, your audience well enough, you will understand how the gospel will resonate with that person. You'll understand why they need it. And I want to go a little bit deeper into that. Especially as we get older, our worldviews solidify. And we don't really like being as open as we did when we were young. And so, people who have certain worldviews or certain beliefs, they don't, really want to change. They're happy with how things are. And that is the case until something breaks. When something breaks, all of us start looking for solutions. And this is the case with psychology and counseling. For example, with people who struggle with serious addictions, like, for example, narcotics or alcohol, they will talk about sort of their point of no return when they basically stare death in the face. They're like, I've been trying to get unaddicted. I can't do it. And then they have this sort of life or death experience, and it shocks them out of it. And they're like, you know what? I'm done. And then they'll go to AA and they'll actually see the results. They'll actually be able to quit. Why? Because the pain of continuing down that path got so great. There's nothing that could compare with it, and anything is acceptable. Any change is acceptable, or a functional change is acceptable. Well, that's the same thing in people's life. They don't care about your gospel message if things are fine, right? And why? This is what we see in the gospel. Jesus says, I did not come for the healthy, but for the sick, the people who know they have an issue, for the people who know they need help. That's what we're looking for when we're talking to people. You know what? And if the opportunity doesn't arise, great. Don't push it on them. Don't push the gospel message on them. But we're looking for that wound. And when they start sharing it with us, firstly, just listen. Because if the moment they open that up, you come in and you cram in the gospel message, they're going to be like, okay, this is what it was the whole time. And now I feel stupid. I shared, and this guy over here, he's just criticizing. He's talking about the gospel. I'm out of here. And I mean, you can just feel the disappointment even as I say that, I think. So with that, we talk to them, we get to know them, we listen. And when they open the door to that wound that's really bothering them, you listen. And that's when you start praying, all right, God, is this the time to share the gospel message? And how does this come across in the most sensitive way? And we ask for permission, right? We say, that's so hard. And I can't possibly understand what you're going through. I went through some different things, totally different. They were very hard times for me. And there's some things that really helped me, if you're interested in hearing them, but I don't want to impose. They'll say yes every time. And they will give you an open door to share whatever worked for you. Again, you don't even need to go to this objective, here's exactly what you need to do and how to do it, and it's super important. No, just say, I came into this relationship with Jesus. I realized I had these issues, and now I have so much peace. And that's when you can give your testimony, and it comes in super powerfully, and when you come at it in this way, and you come at it with such sensitivity and empathy for their situation, I mean, people will just, you don't even know will just break down and cry, and so knowing what to do in the situation and knowing who the audience is you're talking to, and the need, the problem in their life that they need healing from, that is where you deliver the gospel. The gospel is the medicine, right? Jesus came for the sick. The gospel is the medicine. If you go and you apply it to their job and they make $500K a year, forget it. They don't need you. They don't need the gospel. They're doing fine. But, you know, their sister was just, you know, whatever happened, and you deliver the gospel there, that is where you have the highest likelihood of really hitting home with the gospel message and doing it in a way where they, you know, they're so grateful that you shared, they just can't even contain it, you know, and they'll actually do that. So hopefully this is encouraging. Get to know the person you're talking to. Ask them all the questions. And I've had situations where I've asked people, in one scenario, to give you an example of how many questions you might need to ask, I had a guy come up to me at a hot tub. I know. And I was with 4 guys from an apologetics group I went to, and he heard us talking about apologetics. He comes up, he goes, "You're Christians?" And I was like, oh, here it comes. He's going to dump it, right? He's got 20 years of baggage of the church, and he's going to dump it on me, and I'm ready for it. And, yep. What are you? And he goes, "I'm a Satanist." And I was like, awesome. And his girlfriend's with him. It's like, well, since we're getting to know each other, like, what is she? She's a Wiccan. She's a witch. It's like, tell me about that. That is so interesting. My goodness. I don't think I've ever met a Satanist. That is fascinating. Please share with me. Tell me what you believe. And I asked him questions for 40 minutes, letting him vent and letting him just get this stuff off. Didn't stick to me. Doesn't have anything to do with me. And come around to the end of the conversation, and he's open to hearing. He's open to listening, because I listened, and I just allowed him to share. And nobody has ever listened in, 20 years of frustration. And all you have to do is get to know your audience, listen to where the pain is. And the great thing is, when people come to you and they come to you with this, you can just tell, man, you're one of those Christian people. That's the best person. There's so much anger there. There's so much pain there. All you've got to do is open it up and just allow them to talk, hear it. Oh my gosh, that is so hard. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you have to agree with what every other Christian did, or the terrible thing that happened to them in the church. Like, bad stuff happens. Listen to it, allow them to get it out and process it. And as soon as they do, they will just tell you to give you their opinion, to share your opinion. So get to know your audience, find the crack in the mask, ask them if it's okay to open that wound a little bit. And as it gets more and more raw, then when you really feel it's time, and we're going to go more into when this is, then you deliver the gospel message to that. So again, hopefully this is a blessing to you. Hit me up in the comments if there's anything else you want to talk about. If you've had similar experiences to this and you're thinking, and you're like, oh my gosh, that happened to me. Trying to break it down into a system that you can use. We've got links, how to share the gospel. We've got different things down in the comments, or in the comment section. So anyway, thank you. See you in the next video. God bless.